Okay, I'm calling this meeting to order, the public meeting on November the 10th, 9:30. And I'd like to make note that tomorrow Remembrance Day services will be held here as well as on Howe Island. And also today is the anniversary date of 50 years of the Ellen Fitzgerald. So yeah. Somber times and cool weather here. So we'll call the meeting to order. We begin this gathering by acknowledging and celebrating those traditional lands as a gathering place of the First Peoples and their ancestors, who are entrusted to care for Mother Earth since time immemorial. We do so respecting both the land and the Indigenous people continue to walk with us through this world. Today, the Township of Frontenac Island is committed to working with Indigenous peoples and all residents to pursue a united path of reconciliation. Is there any declaration of pecuniary interest in the nature thereof? Okay, we're missing one counselor at this point in time.
Through you, Madam Mayor, he sends his regrets. He is 8th May.
Okay, so Councillor Tabarnaki is not here today. So the purpose of this meeting is a planning report B08-25-W for an application for consent to sever a new waterfront lot at 2040 Road 95. And we have Dimitri.
Thank you,
Early.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good morning, Council. Thanks for having me this morning. We're going to be running two public meetings this morning, one for the lot creation for 2040 Road 95. And the other one is for a zoning bylaw amendment on the same property pertaining to the lands that are retained or left over from the place severance. So before I get into my presentation, I'm just going to provide some housekeeping information. So what I'm going to read now is called the procedure and statement for public meetings held under the Planning Act. So council will be conducting two public meetings this morning under the authority of the Planning Act. The personal information collected as a result of these public meetings is collected under the authority of the Municipal Act, the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection and Privacy Act, the Planning Act, and all other relevant legislation, and will be used to assist in making a decision on these matters. All names, addresses, opinions, and comments may be collected and may form part of the minutes that will be available to the public. Questions regarding the collection should be forwarded to the township clerk. Any person who wishes to receive a copy of the minutes of a public meeting, a copy of any planning report, or notice of council's decision on any of the applications presented this morning should indicate their full name, address, postal code, and other relevant contact information to the clerk prior to leaving the meeting. If a person or public body does not make an oral submission at the public meeting or make a written submission to the Township of Frontenac Islands before council makes a decision on these planning applications, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of the Township of Frontenac Islands to the Ontario Land Tribunal and may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the Ontario Land Tribunal unless it is in the opinion of the tribunal there are reasonable grounds to do so. Please note that only specified persons, as defined by the Planning Act, are permitted to appeal certain types of applications. The procedure for the public meetings will be as follows. The planner will explain the process of the public meeting and provide a brief overview of the application and a summary of their review and recommendation. The applicant will then be provided with an opportunity to provide any comments that they'll have about their application. Members of council will then have the opportunity to ask questions of the applicant and the planner. The chair, being the mayor, will then inquire if there are any members of the public who wish to make an oral or written submission on the proposed application, and if so, you should announce your name and mailing address before providing your comments. Please be aware that anyone wishing to address the applications should direct their comments and questions through the chair or the mayor. So I'm just give me 1 second here. I'm gonna share my PowerPoint slides and then bring the details up on the screen for you. So what I've done in this presentation is I have combined. So I'm going to do one presentation, one for the consent or the lot creation application, one for the zoning, just because they're two separate applications, but they're dealing with the same property, and the zoning is really the zoning amendment is really a more technical purpose, a more technical application. The most important aspect of this proposal is the lot creation, because the lot creation will make way for the those zoning amendment. And the zoning amendment is really just to formalize the, what the land can be used for. So there are two applications to consider. One is B0825W, and this is a consent to sever a waterfront lot for the purposes of donating the retained or the leftover parcel to the Nature Conservancy of Canada. And application Z0325W for the zoning amendment is to rezone the retained parcel or the parcel that's going to be donated to a more appropriate zone that will ensure that it remains undeveloped into the future. So just some details on the application. The severed parcel, that's the parcel on your right-hand side. There's also a site plan attached to the planning report. The area for that proposed lot that's being created is approximately 1 hectare, which equals to just under 2.5 acres. It's got about 113 meters or 370 feet of frontage on Road 95. The same amount of irregular shoreline on Button Bay and the Button Bay provincially significant wetland. The property that is proposed is developed with 2 storage buildings. There is no proposed land use change for this property. And the official plan designates this property as rural shoreland area, and the zoning is rural. For the retained portion, or the portion that's outlined in red, that parcel is 9.78 hectares, or just under 25 acres in area. It's got 347 meters, or just under 1,200 feet of frontage on Road 95. The same for the amount of waterfront on Button Bay. That parcel is entirely vacant. The proposed development or use of that parcel is conservation only, essentially being set aside for nature's sake. And the official plan designation for that property is rural and shoreland area, as well as provincially significant wetland. The zoning for this particular portion of the property is split zone, partially rural and partially wetland, but the majority of the zoning for this property is rural. So the subject property is adjacent to the Button Bay provincially significant wetland. The western part of the subject property is identified as a wetland. So on this map, what I'm showing you are 2 different wetland layers, the yellow being the provincially significant wetland layer, the green being just a locally significant wetland that's not protected by the province. The one thing that you have to consider when you're looking at provincially significant wetlands is that development within 120 meters of a provincially significant wetland always has to be carefully considered. So we usually do environmental studies and stuff on those, simply because those lands are deemed to be of enough ecological significance that the province actually protects it through their own policy mechanisms. And we have to recognize that in our official plans and in our policies. That retained parcel is completely naturally vegetated, and if we were to do a woodland analysis on it, it most likely qualifies to be what's called a significant woodland under the provincial policy regime, I suppose. Those woodlands have not been evaluated, so we cannot deem it to be significant woodland, but it is very likely that it is. The lot that's proposed, that's the lot on the right-hand side, where the 2 buildings already exist, in the opinion of planning staff, is the only area that is reasonable for any type of development. So what the property owner is essentially doing is they're severing off the portion that's developable and the portion that is should be protected due to its significance, ecological significance, is being donated to the Nature Conservancy of Canada to be set aside for the sake of ecological significance and the sake of ecological protection. Overall, this property is an ecologically sensitive and important area, and it's intended to be set aside as such. The application was circulated to the Petawawa Region Conservation Authority, who provide comments with respect to flood risks, as well as any type of natural hazards. We haven't received their official comments yet, but in my preliminary discussions with the CRCA, they have absolutely no concern with this. Our pre-consultation discussion determined that no environmental impact study is required, even though it's within 120 meters of a provincially significant wetland, because this land is not going to be developed, so it's going to be set aside. That's probably the best outcome for any land within provincially significant wetland. They had no concerns with the proposal, and there's no flood risks identified on the proposed lot. The proposed lot sits a little bit higher than the retained lot, and the lot is going to be donated. No issues with development in the future. We had no public comments regarding this matter. The one thing that we have to consider here that council has not considered in the past is what's called the parkland dedication fee. So typically, parkland dedication fees are standard conditions that form any type of lot division application. The applicant has requested to be exempt from the parkland dedication fee in this situation. And in short, planning staff agreed with their proposal. And I'm gonna explain what the parkland dedication fee is and why planning staff are supportive of this request. So the parkland dedication fee is when it's collected from people that are creating lots or creating subdivisions, that fee is placed into a specific fund and the township then uses for parks and recreational facilities. The idea is that when new lots are created, population grows, and as population grows, the township needs to service that growth with more recreational infrastructure. So parks, pocket race, and any type of recreational facility that the municipality has in their on their budget. So what the parkland dedication fee does is it compensates for growth. So the idea is that growth needs to pay for growth. So the parkland dedication fee compensates for growth to ensure that the township has enough recreational land facilities to support population growth and support the township. For waterfront lots, that fee is 5% of the 2/3 of the value of the lot on the date provisional consent was given. So the way it's calculated is that you take the value of the lot before the lot division application is approved. You take that value, you find out what 2/3 of that value is, and then you take 5% of that, and then that's then paid to the township puts it into their fund, and then at the end of the year, the township has to allocate a certain percentage of that fund into their recreational facilities. On average, based on my experience, that fee is anywhere between $6,000 to $12,000, depending on the value of the lot. So under the parkland dedication bylaw, council can waive this fee by resolution. So in addition to asking you to consider the consent application and the zoning amendment, what we're also asking you to consider is waiving of this parkland dedication requirement. In our opinion, in planning staff's opinion, just go back, yeah, in planning staff's opinion, it doesn't make sense to collect a fee on parkland dedication in this case. The reason for that is the Planning Act, that the law that allows municipalities to do certain things with respect to land use, basically tells municipalities that they can collect either parkland or parkland dedication fee to compensate for growth. The reality is here is that this retained parcel is not going to be used for growth. There's no development that's proposed on this lot. It's only being set aside for the purposes of conservation. On that, within that notion, then you cannot. It makes no sense to collect a fee that's used to compensate for growth if there's no growth happening. So this lot is not being, it is not contributing to the growth of the township. So overall, planning staff are supportive of the request to exempt this application of the parkland fee. Again, since the retained parcel is not developed, it does not contribute to growth, and quite frankly, it would be inappropriate to collect this fee for conservation. Sense or conservation land. So overall, with respect to the lot division application, the consent application, planning staff recommend the proposed lot, subject to conditions outlined in the planning report. Those conditions include rezoning the retained parcel from rural to recreational open space, just to reinforce that this land is not something that can be developed through zoning. There are also other mechanisms that will ensure that through the Nature Conservancy's agreement that they have with the federal government for their funding. But in order for the township to ensure that doesn't get developed, we're recommending a zoning amendment. That the applicant receives final comments from the CRCA, which should not be a problem. That the subject property that's proposed to be created is surveyed. That a certificate official is obtained and presented from the township, and that a 5 meters of road allowance is dedicated to the township for the purposes of road widening. So all these are pretty standard conditions when it comes to lot division. The second application that we're looking to consider today is essentially attached to the consent application, and that is to rezone the retained parcel, the parcel that's left over from rural to recreational open space. The reason for that is because the retained parcel is going to be acquired by the NCC for conservation purposes. The zoning provides protection for the future, ensuring that it does not get developed. The other reason why this has been proposed for rezoning is because the NCC has asked for exemption from parkland dedication. So this just provides an additional layer of insurance for the township that the parcel isn't going to be eventually sold off for the purpose of development. We've also created a condition under the previous application, which I just mentioned, that requires that rezoning as a condition to receive the lot division. This rezoning only applies to the retained parcel. As I mentioned in my previous slides, that the subject parcel is naturally vegetated, ecologically sensitive, and adjacent to provincially significant wetlands and contains wetlands. So this makes it a perfect candidate for conservation protection. The rural zone itself permits a wide variety of uses, and recreational space does not permit development on it. So that's why recreational open space is the zone that has been chosen for this property. And in our opinion, and planning staff's opinion, RE or recreational open space is the most appropriate zone for the property considering the proposed use. CRCA had no concerns with the proposed rezoning. They just told us that make sure you're only rezoning the rural portion of the lands, not the wetland portion of the lands. So this zoning bylaw amendment applies only to the rural or the white portion of the map, not the. Our recommendation is to approve no new conditions or no new issues arise in the public meeting. Thank you. Concludes my presentation.
Thank you very much. Are there any comments from the public at this point in time? Yes, step forward, state your name and address for the clerk, and then give us your comments.
Morning, Mayor, and to you, council and staff. I'm actually the agent for the applicant, so
Your
is that
name?
okay?
Yeah.
Fine. My name is Mark Stad with the Nature Conservancy of Canada. I work for a not-for-profit land trust, works across the country to conserve biodiversity, and have had, through various means, acquired or helped protect around 15 to 20 million hectares of land. Some very large parcels, some very small. I've focused on areas in Eastern Ontario, Central Ontario, area of high biodiversity, high threat. We are actually a landowner now on Prince Edward County, thanks to the work of retired NCC staff person Gary Bell, who helped acquire Stanley Point. So it's one of our properties. We manage the nature reserve. That site in particular has a trail, access to the lake. We manage it as a nature reserve, pre-plant and things like that. It was through Gary that he introduced us to the Horn family. And it's been my honor, actually, and privilege to work with the Horn family to help build a plan to protect Horn Woods. I've talked to a couple of council members beforehand that I think a lot of people know the significance of the site of woods that have not been cut for some time, if not forever. It's never been cleared. As a result, it's highly significant from an old growth forest perspective, but even more importantly, from a cultural heritage perspective, it's been in the family for so long. It's highly significant. It's part of the family's legacy. So we are really happy to work with them to come up with a plan to protect this portion of the woods. There's only one parcel piece we're talking about today. There are other pieces of the forest. One that Bruce and Peggy will be retaining on Lake Shore. And this is just, we're dealing with the northeast portion. So we're happy to answer your questions about it. As I mentioned, it's a nature reserve, nature first. It's actually private land. Because we're a land trust, we're not a government agency. But we like to work as good neighbors and community to connect and develop the relations over the long term. So once we arrive someplace, we are committed to being on the land and caring for properties and looking after them over time. So I'm here to also answer any questions and say again, I've been working for NCC for a long time in my career, like 40 years or more in conservation, and I've never seen a forest like this. So we've got something really special on Wolf Island. We've only got about 10% forest cover at this stage, so protected spaces like this are highly significant. Dimitri, I want to recognize Dimitri for thanking him for helping us through this process and a complex one. So I appreciate your time, helping us through this. He did mention Environment Canada's connection, so the family does intend to donate that portion of the property to us through the Ecological Gifts Program. And they have provided us with their assessment, and they've deemed it as highly ecologically significant, as well. So pleasure to be here and happy to any questions you might have.
Okay. Any other comments from the public? If not, we'll go around the table, Councillor Thomas.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Dimitri. It is complex, so I do need to have you a few questions. I want to deal with the half portion that's in the yellow first.
Let me just bring that up on
Yeah.
this slide.
So what would be the plan, what would be available for that severed lot? Residential growth, building, was,
The severed lot would just function as a standard rural lot on the waterfront, and that's on that proposed lot is on the east side or on the right hand side. So yeah.
so any development on that property would fall through the normal planning process and everything else?
That's correct.
And the other, this is more of a information item for me. What does the nature conservator do with that property? Is it just left? Would there be future paths through the water? What actually happens with the property?
I'll let Mark answer that question.
Yeah, thank you. Good question. Thanks very much. Every property has different ecological features. That's our primary mandate, is to look after them. So the first, and under the Ecological Gifts Program, there's even higher kind of restrictions to what can be done. So it's nature conservation first. But in all circumstances, we look for opportunities to allow people to see properties and so on. Right now, there isn't a network of trails on the property. And under the Ecological Gifts Program, there's not a lot of approvals for new trails because that creates a new footprint in a protected land. So the intent is, first of all, we get to know the property better, understand its flora and fauna. We have experts who are really eager to get out to see this site, having heard about its history and so on. And then we put a property management plan together. If in the case if there were a trail, for example, we find opportunities to allow people to go on the site. So that site would be certainly more of a nature sanctuary first. And in fact, there's not much parking in the area, there's traffic, so I know the family is eager not for it to be overrun with people. Having said that, there is another parcel of land that the family is donating to us, which is not part of this application whatsoever, which does have a trail. And it's possible, we have to do our assessment again first, and look at sensitive features and so on. It might be a site where we could allow people to take the waterfront and look at the woods from the other side of the bay. If you've been to Saley Point, that's kind of similar situation there. To acquire the property, got to know what the natural features were, where restoration might take place, where a trail might be, and now we do have a trail going up the waterfront at that property. So to back up that to Chris directly, I could be a nature sanctuary first with us going to the property to look for invasive species managing for nature protection. But also we invite people to come with us for guided tours, taking part in volunteer events. That's a typical way to get people into some of these sensitive sites where they can actually help out to look after things. So be more kind of like a curated visit rather than visiting local public.
And Madam, just one comment. I think all council would like to thank the Horn family for the very generous donation. So,
Councillor
No, I just, great presentation again, like usual, and thank you very much.
Thanks.
Councillor Holton.
Just one comment, I guess. I have mixed feelings on it as a counselor. I'd like to see that we use tax base and that the land can't be developed. We need money, but on the other hand, I think it's great. I think some of this land needs to be left with no human footprint on it. People just have to trust that it's a great thing for the environment, for all our species. So I think it's a great idea.
Okay, and just, I didn't get out to see the exact linear line of where that is. I am under the impression that the orchard is not involved in this way, shape or form.
Sorry, to hear
The
that.
orchard that's out there is not involved. And the winter dock that the Horns Ferry usually docked at is not involved.
No, so just land to the north and that dock heading into Button Bay is not involved.
Not involved, good. And I certainly don't have an issue with them not having the parkland fee applied to it, since basically it's not what usually is developed, but I'm wondering, is the county charging them a zoning change fee in that? And quite frankly, I'm not thinking that they should even charge that, but I'm just wondering.
Well, the county doesn't, we don't charge for application fees. The application fees are dictated by the township's fee bylaw. And so, yes, the answer is yes, they have paid for both the consent and the zoning fee. But the zoning fee is a reduced rate, because it is a condition of the severance application. So it's about half price compared to a base standard of zoning fee.
That sounds better than that, because it seems like it's a wonderful gift to the community and to nature, and I'm hoping that some of the birders may be allowed to go in there. We have a great birding tourism type of thing that goes through and that, and I'm pretty sure they're pretty conscious to not make it a lot of damage or even messes either, but yeah, it sounds fun.
Thank you, I can respond to that. Woodlands on the shoreline like this are really highly submitted for migratory birds. There's been studies done around the shores of Lake Ontario, and they just become magnets for birds that are on their way north or south both seasons. So you're right, it's a good place for birders to visit. But again, the trail aspect is not there. And the trees have been there for hundreds of years, and it's kind of magical in the way that they have still stayed there. And I think part of it is because they've just got their roots kind of locked into the bedrock that's able to withstand storms and so on. But it makes me also think though that the shallow soils are highly sensitive to traffic. So the idea of a guided tour, getting folks in to see it, we actually really keen on that, so people can appreciate what the Horn family is donated to future generations. But it will be kind of more of a quiet site.
All right,
Moved by Councillor Holton, second by Deputy Mayor Saunders, that consent application number B 08-25 W for the property located at 2040 Road 95, legally described as Part Lot 10 and Part Lot 11, Concession 8, Wolf Island, Township of Frontenac Islands, for the creation of a new waterfront lot be approved, subject to the conditions noted in Appendix A of the planning report. And that the clerk shall issue the notice of decision in accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act, including providing the notice of decision to the applicant, any person or public body that made a written request to be notified, and any other person or public body prescribed. And that all conditions outlined in the notice of decision be completed, and that the certificate of official issue within a period of 2 years after the notice of decision was issued, as required by the Planning Act. And further, that council waive the parkland dedication requirement as requested by the applicant, recognizing that the property is being conveyed for conservation purposes and that no new development is proposed on the lands.
okay, any further comments? All those in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. And
No,
thank-
not here, sorry. Moved by Councillor Ackley, seconded by Councillor Holton, that the application for zoning bylaw amendment, file number Z-03-25 W for a parcel located at 2040 Road 95, Part Lot 10 and Part Lot 11, Concession 8, Wolf Island, Township of Frontenac Islands be approved, and that the zoning bylaw number 15-2013 of the Township of Frontenac Islands be Frontenac Island. Township of Frontenac Islands, Frontenac, as amended, be further amended as per attachment to the draft bylaw and Schedule A to amend zoning bylaw number 15-2013. And that council determines that in accordance with section 3417 of the Planning Act, no further notice is required prior to the passage of the bylaw, and that the amending bylaw be presented to council for all 3 readings.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor? Carried. We're gonna have to, then we have one in the package. Okay, thank you very much, and thank you to the Horn family for your generous donation.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Saunders, seconded by Councillor Holton, that the public meeting held November 10th, 2025 adjourned.
Okay, all those in favor? Adjourned for the public meeting. We had no minutes to start the next meeting.